Hello everyone, welcome to today's session where we are going to look at the poem Spring and Fall by Gerard Manley Hopkins. Though Hopkins wrote this poem in 1880, but it was actually published in his posthumous poetry collection in 1918 in Poems of Gerard Manley Hopkins. Here is the text of the poem, and as you can see that this poem is addressed to a young child. I am reading out it to you. Margaret, are you grieving over Golden Grove unleaving? So here the speaker is addressing to a young child whose name is Margaret, and this young child is grieving or crying at the fall of leaves, or we can say that she is expressing her grief at the shedding of tree leaves over Golden Grove unleaving. Here this word Golden Grove is a coinage by Hopkins which suggests a forest with yellow golden leaves, and this word unliving is also a made up word by Hopkins which means undressing or falling of leaves. So I hope that you have got the idea or tone of the poem, which is conversational or in a dialogic form, where we can say it is in a conversational or addressed form, because we are not going to get any dialogue from Margaret, whereas we will find that the speaker is just addressing to this young girl Margaret, and in a very philosophical argumentative tone, and giving out his arguments in which he is trying to figure out the cause of the sorrow, and ultimately he gives the cause of the sorrow in a very philosophical way. It comes to an end. So let's see how it goes on. The starting is very simple. In very simple tone he is expressing, or the poet is suggesting that there is a speaker who is addressing to a girl, Margaret, are you grieving over Golden Grove unleaving? Leaves like the things of man, you with your fresh thoughts care for. Can you? So here the speaker is also telling the girl that you are caring, or you are worrying over this natural phenomenon of falling of things, as you care for the things of man, for the problems of human life. And this similar attitude is due to your innocence, because you are not as experienced as any adult self. So it is due to your childhood, due to your innocence, that you are equally anxious for the things like things happening in nature and in the human life. Leaves like the things of man, you with your fresh thoughts, due to your innocence, you care for. Can you? So it is also setting the conversational tone of this poem. And here I would also like to draw your attention towards the title of the poem. After this introductory excerpt, I hope that you can figure out the sense which this title wants to give us. Spring and fall. In this poem we are going to get something related to spring and fall, life and death, youth and age. So such contrast or such binaries we are going to get, or we can up to this stage, after this introductory except we can sense this, or we can get this. So to proceed in the proceedings of his addressing to the girl, the speaker further says, as the heart grows older, it will come to such sights colder. Now here the speaker seems to be a very wise person who has a wisdom, the wisdom he has acquired after certain experiences in his life. He is an experienced person, and whereas in his contrast the girl is an inexperienced, immature, innocent girl, and he is saying that he is telling the girl that, Margaret, when you will get older, you will not even notice or care much about these things, because he is arguing, or he is giving these facts or suggestions that as the heart grows older, as the human heart grows older, as human grows, he comes across many pains and tragedies in his life. And for an experienced person, Golden Grove unliving, such phenomena are just minor natural process, and there is nothing to worry and lament over such phenomenon in case of experienced person. But since you are in your very youth and innocence age, that's why you are very concerned for these things. As the heart grows older, it will come to such sights colder, and these things doesn't bother the man. So here one more thing we can take out is that the speaker wants to suggest that the trauma of aging is such that that man's heart becomes unmoved over the things which he used to experience as very impressionable, and by which he used to get affected in his previous life when he used to be child or not so adult. So here this sense also we can get that aging is such a phenomenon which makes a man more experienced with the pains and sufferings. That man doesn't bother much about these things like falling of trees, which are a reminder of death or destruction, loss and separation. Such things becomes very normal and common for man when he gets older or when he gets age. And here speaker is also suggesting, Margaret, that you are now innocent, you are very in your very youth, but when you will grow you will also encounter so many obstacles and hurdles in your life, and after crossing such obstacles and hurdles you will also complete the journey towards your ultimate doom, towards your fall. So here we can say that Margaret is representing the spring, and the speaker, who is an experienced person, who is a wise person, and who seems to handing over this legacy of wisdom to this young girl, Margaret, is representing fall. So here again we get a contrast between innocence and the experienced life. As the heart grows older, it will come to such sights colder. By and by, nor spare a sigh, though words of vanwood leaf me lie. So here he is saying that as time passes, you won't even sigh, you won't even cry over even if the whole forest becomes leafless. So here this meaning we can get by again these made up words by Hopkins. Vanwood, leaf mill, these both are coinage by Hopkins. Vanwood means dying leaves or bark, and leaf mill is suggesting that just like piecemeal, leaf mill means scattered leaves in a very disorganized manner. So vanwood leaf meal. So if you find that all the leaves have got dead, and they are if they lie in the form of many heaps at your feet, if it happens, though worlds of vanwood leaf me lie at your feet, then too you will not spare a sigh when you will get your adult self. So that is the impact of aging or age. So now as there is a contrast that you are mourning over the fact that leaves are shedding, leaves are falling, but when your heart grows older, you will even become such cold man, cold human being, that you will not even spare a sigh for the whole vanwood leaf me lie at your feet. And the last line, and yet you will weep. So here the speaker is also saying that it's not that you will not weep when you will get your adult self, or when you will grow up. You will weep, but you know why. But you will, at that time you will be able to articulate the reasons of your sorrow, or you will be able to understand the cause of your sorrow, that understanding will come to you with the aging, with the age. So, and yet you will weep and know why. And one more thing, this phrase know why is also giving an ambiguity here, because know why, one meaning I have already told you, that know why, that you will know the meaning, the reason behind your sorrow. And one more meaning which we can derive out from this phrase is that maybe the speaker wants to say to Margaret that yet you will weep and you want to know why. So I'm telling you that you know why, so now next stanza or next proceedings, as this poem has not been divided into stanzas, it is a continue poem with many lines, with these lines. So let's proceed the next, what he is putting forward, what wisdom or what more wise words he is saying to Margaret. Now no matter, child, the name. So you know why, that you will weep, but you will know the cause of your sorrow. But child, it doesn't matter the name of your sorrow, that why you feel unhappy. It will not bother you that what is the name of your sorrow, because in your heart of hearts, or in somewhere in the corner of your heart, you will be acquainted, or you will encounter this truth, that sorrow springs are the same, that the spring or the source of all the sorrows are the same. And this line is also reflecting the theme of this poem, that that the source or the chief cause of the sorrows are the same, that is, and the cause is mortality, death, destruction, loss, pain of separation is inevitable. That is the main cause of all the sorrows, whatever we name it, or we if we fail to name it, or if we name it, it doesn't matter. The what matter, or what. So the poet seems to generalize here this truth that death is the fact of life. We all are destined to die, and we are proceeding as we are aging, we are moving towards, we are completing our journey, and we are moving towards our doom. So now no matter, child, the same, sorrow springs are the same, nor mouth had, no nor mind expressed, what heart heard of. So here the speaker is telling to Margaret that this expression of or the description of this sorrow of death, or our mortality, the truth of our mortality cannot be expressed by any young girl, or either by any young girl or any old guy or older people. In other words, it can't be expressed through words, mouth, or nor it can be expressed through the thoughts. But this expression can find its place in the heart only. The heart knows it very well, this truth. So here I would like to elaborate this, what heart heard of. So taking you back to the beginning of the poem, Margaret was grieving. So here there is a revelation by the speaker that Margaret was actually grieving over her own mortality, over her eventual death, but she was unable to describe it. She was unable to grasp that why is she feeling grief over the separation, over the demise, over the destruction of these leaves, because the moment she sees the demise or the destruction of leaves, her heart at once feels her eventual death. So only the heart heard of. But in it can be in the case of young age, when man fails to articulate, or in his or her adult self, maybe he finds the words to express his emotions related to mortality, but it can't be fully expressed, nor mouth, no, nor mind, what heart heard of. So heart is capable to feel or realize this very truth of life. Ghost guest, and either heart or ghost or our spirit which can guess it very well, our mortality. And here this word ghost is can be also a reference to the Holy Ghost of Christianity, since Hopkins himself was a very devout Jesuit. So this ghost can be also a reference to the Holy Ghost of Christianity, the ghost guest, spirit guest. It is the blight man was born for. It is Margaret you mourn for. So here the speaker is clearing or dispersing all the doubts or all the suspicion or all the things which Margaret is fails to understand or fails to grasp, though she is still young, and it's not certain that she will understand what here this speaker wants to convey, but he is just passing over this wisdom as a legacy to this young girl. One day she will happen, or one day she will come to realize the actual meaning of these words. It is the blight, it is the curse with which man is destined to leave life behind, and one day every man has to die. So it is the blight man was born for, and it is this reason, Margaret, it is your own mortality, it is your eventual realization, it is the moment of realization when you feel that you will that this your childhood will come to an end, you will one day grow up and you will die one day. It is this encounter with mortality with due to which you are mourning. So coming to the end of the analysis, I would like to discuss briefly themes of this poem, and I hope that you can understand, or you can very well figure out that these are the themes: death, innocence, sadness. Death has this poem has established, or this truth, or generalized this truth, that death is the fact of life. And innocence, as this poem at the very outset, it was addressed to a young child, and that child it is especially about that moment of the child when she or he comes to realize that one day this childhood comes to an end and he will die. And sadness is prevailing over the poem, that sorrows springs from the same source, and the cause of the sorrows are same, that is mortality. Language and communication, here again we can say that either it is expressible or not, or in the case of, as in the case of young age Margaret, when she fails to express that why is she actually grieving or crying, or in the adult self when man finds words to express their emotion. So it is a language and communication. The whole poem itself is set in a very conversational or conversational tone. And one more thing, if we see in this poem, that this poem is endowed with many compound words which were coinage by Hopkins, so many made up words like vanwood, leaf meal, golden grove, unliving. So these all words are also a part of language and communication of this poem, which are adding beauty to which are adding literary beauty to this poem. And before I wind up this lecture, I also would like to discuss the form and the poetic device used in this poem. And if you see the form or rhyme scheme of this poem, then it is A, B, B, C, C, D, 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 E, E, F, F, G, G. So here one thing which is striking is that along with the couplets, this trio of 3 consecutive rhyming lines, D, 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 Sai, Lai, Y, is giving a very different tone or different distinctive feature or attribute to this poem. And this is the rhyme scheme. And this poem is full of sprung rhythms. Hopkins has extensively used, and or I would say that very beautiful sprung rhythms have been used in this poem. And if you want to understand this invention by Hopkins, sprung rhythm, in detail, then you can watch one of my previous videos. I have given the link in the description below, where you can find a detailed lecture related to this sprung rhythm. And along with sprung rhythm, one more poetic device has been used extensively by Hopkins, that is alliteration. Alliteration is a poetic device when there is a repetition of consonant sounds at the beginning of the words which succeeds each other. There are many alliterations in this poem, and there is only one line which I have highlighted in yellow color, which shows us that there is a use of alliteration. But I encourage you to find all the alliterations used in the poem, which I hope that you will find it interesting too. So this line, if you see, though worlds of Vanwood leave me lie, worlds of Vanwood, there is a repeated sound of W sound, worlds of Vanwood, and the next leave me lie, there is a repeated sound L here. So here is a use of alliteration. And that's all for today. Thank you for listening.